Okie dokie, we are up to 1988. And the playoff series videos, again, the, the initial view counts end up low on these, but I really enjoy putting them together. I gotta be honest. And this one really was kind of easy because we didn't have a whole lot of scoring. So we're up to pretty much the height of the dead puck era. By 98, we're looking at a lot of teams playing the trap. Some games where there's not a whole lot of shots being taken by one team or another. By design of the neutral zone trap and the way that it's played. And what's interesting is that if you're a Capitals fan, of course, your whole history of watching the team is mostly frustration and failure until 2018. And then you win that Stanley Cup in 2018, and it all feels a little bit better. 98 was a tough one. 98 was a team that wasn't really expected to do a whole lot. They went 40, 30, and 12 that year, and there wasn't a lot expected of them. Now, they scored 219 goals. They allowed 202. So they were 13th in goals for, 10th in goals against. Again, out of a 26-team league, there was nothing about the Washington Capitals that year that looked overly remarkable. Now, on the Buffalo side of things, they were 36, 29, and 17. So their record wasn't great either. They had 211 goals for, which was 17th in the league out of 26 teams. They had 187 goals against, which was 3rd out of 26 teams. And, of course, this is when Hasek was at his best. But this series was to decide who was going to go to the Stanley Cup Finals and get destroyed by the Detroit Red Wings as they would win their second straight Stanley Cup. But it was quite the series, and I remember really, really hoping that Washington could maybe win a cup in 98 and kind of being a little bit heartbroken when they didn't. And it starts with this series where I kind of felt good about the Capitals' chances coming out of here. Now, Game 1's in Washington, and it starts a theme with this series where if you're the home team, you're probably going to lose. One home team win in the entire series. One. So, first period, no scoring in Washington between Buffalo and the Capitals. Michael Grosek scores from Barnaby at 31 seconds, so early in the second, Buffalo gets that lead. And then Shaitan scores from Holzinger and Audette at 1:55, so 2 goals very quickly. And then that's it. There was no scoring in the third either. Low opportunity game. Olaf Kolzig saves 18 out of 20 at one end of the rink, and Dominik Hasek saves all 19 shots at the other end as Dominator gets himself a shutout, and Buffalo steals home ice advantage from Washington, which would not prove to be any kind of advantage throughout this series. So we go into Game 2, Buffalo looking for the stranglehold 2-0 series lead. Instead, the Capitals have something to say about that. Now in the first, Vaclav Varada scores from Ward at 19:02. So it's 1-0 Buffalo after one. Second period, power play goal, Peter Bondra from Phil Housley at 19:55. So in the first and in the second, we get goals in the last minute. It's a tie game going into the third. In the third period, Joe Juneau scores from Adam Oates and Brian Bellows at 14:06. But before the period's out, in the last minute, it's Barnaby on the power play at 19:03. So Barnaby is on the board with a goal and an assist thus far in this series. We go to overtime. In overtime at 3 minutes and 1 second, Todd Krieger from Nikolitin, and that made it a 3-2 win in overtime for the Capitals. Dominik Hasek, 36 saves on 39 shots in the loss. Kolzig saves 31 out of 33 in the win. Great goaltending matchup, and with 5 goals allowed and 72 shots, it showed both goalies were playing pretty darn well. So we go to Game 3, and it's in Buffalo. And again, home ice, not an advantage. Buffalo, first period, Bondra scores from Nikolitin and Zednik at 4:57. So it's 1-0 Caps. They make it 2-0. It's Zednik scoring from Bondra and Nikolitin at 10:27. Buffalo would get on the board. A power play goal for Donald Audette from Wooley and Primo at 14:59. So it's 2-1. Second period, Barnaby would tie it from Grosek and Smelik at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And then Buffalo gets a lead. Holzinger, that's 3 goals in a row for Buffalo there. From Sanderson and Audette at 12:12. And Buffalo ahead, but not for long. Power play goal for Richard Zednik from Nikolitin and Johansson at 16:17. So Calle Johansson on the board. And then in the third, it's Peter Bondra from Tenorti and Nikolitin at 9:37. Yes, Mark Tenorti playing with the Caps at this point, and that would be your winner. Kolzig saves 27 out of 30. Hasek saves 26 out of 30. And we go to Game 4. In Game 4, we're back to a low-scoring, low-chance affair at one end, and at the other, Olaf Kolzig stealing the show. First period, no goals. Second period, also no goals. Third period, Berube scores from Housley and Hunter at 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Yes, that Berube. And then shorthanded goal by Juno from Oates at 13 minutes and 38 seconds. And that makes it 2-0 for the Caps. And that's your final, 2-0. Kolzig saves all 30 shots that he faces in that period. Hasek saves 17 out of 19. Buffalo fails twice at home. Now we go to Game 5 in Washington. The Capitals, 3-1 series lead, but they're the Capitals. So one thing about the Capitals, when they have a chance to put a team away, they usually don't. And this is not taking shots personally at anybody in the Capitals. It's just that seems to be the way that it goes for them. I don't know what it is. Now, in the first period, it's Daryl Shannon getting on the board from Ward at 6:33. So Buffalo with the lead, but the Capitals would tie it. It's a power play goal for Nikolitin from Zednik at 16:29. So after the first period, it's a 1-1 tie. Second period, no scoring. Again, great goaltending in this series. Plenty of periods without a score in them. Third period, it's then Wooley, the unlikely hero at 15:34. Yeah, Jason Wooley, who it's easy to forget, had a couple of good playoff runs there in his career. Dominik Hasek, 34 saves on 35 shots for the win. Kolzig only faced 16 shots. Saved 14 of them. So Buffalo only manages 16 shots. Great game by the Caps. They just don't win it. So they get all the shots they need, but Dominik Hasek says, yeah, that's nice. I'm done. Someday Shannon's going to say I'm one of the 2 greatest goaltenders he's ever seen. He's going to put me behind Raw because, I don't know, reasons. That's what he would say. And I do have my reasons for Waugh ahead of Hasek, but to me, those are the 2 best goalies I've ever seen. And this series shows that Hasek, absolutely one of the best goalies ever. So, Game 6 in Buffalo. All Buffalo has to do is hold serve at home once. And then they can go to Washington, where they've won 2 out of 3, and they would be pretty sure they could win 3 out of 4, especially with Dominator in the net. First period, no scoring, which you would think, again, would have to favor Buffalo, a team that's been winning low-scoring games all year. Second period, it's Pekka. Mike Pekka gets on the board from Ward and Verata at 13:04. Then Esa Tikkanen gets on the board from Tenorti and Miller at 13:26. Mark Tenorti on the board again. Scoring binge for Tenorti. Second period ends 1-1. Third period, Cruz. Paul Cruz gets on the board from Bugner and Primo at 7 minutes and 40 seconds. That's Wayne Primo and Bob Bugner. And so it's 2-1 in favor of the Sabres. All they have to do is hold it. Power play for the Washington Capitals, and this is where heartbreak starts. Power play goal, Bondra would tie it from Nikolitin at 14:01. I have no idea how Nikolitin had a series like this. Good player, not a star player, and yet here he was on the board more than anybody else in this entire series. So we go to overtime, and again, it's Buffalo at home. You've got Hasek. You have this chance to maybe go to the Stanley Cup Finals and play the Detroit Red Wings. It's Joe Juneau that kills that dream for the Buffalo Sabres fans and for the players. From Bellows and Oates at 6:24. So Adam Oates on the board. Kolzig saves 39 out of 41 in the overtime victory. Hasek saves 35 out of 38. And it is a battle between 2 fantastic goaltenders. Ole, the goalie, it took him a while to get there. It took him a while to become that NHL level goaltender, but once he got there, he was fantastic. So, the Capitals would win this in 6. Buffalo fails in all 3 home games in this series. They score a grand total of 5 goals at home in the series, and on the road, they only scored 6, but on the road, they only allowed 4. So, that's how that works. This is how the mid to late 90s worked, was goal scoring. What is goal scoring? Now, for the series, Barnaby, 2 goals and an assist. He was the highest scorer for the Buffalo Sabres. Donald Audette, a goal and 2 assists, and Ward had 3 helpers for the Buffalo Sabres. Hasek 2 and 4, but a .928 save percentage. Pretty darn good when you consider he only won 2 out of 6. It's not on Hasek in this one. Nikolitin, a goal and 6 assists. Not sure what's going on there. Peter Bondra, 4 goals and 1 helper. Zednik, 2 goals, 2 assists. Joey Juneau, 3 goals in this series. And Adam Oates had 3 assists in this series in 6 games. And again, I've mentioned this in other videos where you would think that holding Oates to 3 points in 6 games means you have a really good shot at winning. And yet, here was Buffalo going home in large part thanks to Kolzig being fantastic and being able to shut out Buffalo on that one occasion there. Kolzig's 4-2 with a .935 save percentage. He was pretty good. So there you go. 97-98. And again, not a ton of scoring in this series, but a very interesting one. Kind of a chess match in a couple of games. But the Washington Capitals would come out ahead. And again, they would lose in the finals. But it was a worrying trend for Buffalo, I should say. Washington's worrying trend seemed to be round 2 for the most part. This was the year they got to the finals. But the worrying trend for Buffalo was having really good goaltending and defense and just not quite having enough to get over the hump. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And as always, stay home as much as you can. Stay safe. And don't forget to wash your hands. And keep yourself nice and clean and keep everything else at bay. So while everything's all crazy out there, I'll be in here providing video content for you fine people. And thanks for your support along the way. I will talk to you again soon.